champion spotlight, featuring Xayah, the rebel.
No one will block my path. Back off! Gotcha!
Let's go! Baby! Xayah!
They say I don't know when to quit. Like that's a weakness.
Xayah's passive is Clean Cuts. After casting an ability, Xayah's next few basic attacks are empowered, as indicated below her health bar. Each empowered basic attack will pierce through all enemies in their path, dealing reduced damage to targets other than the one you clicked on. They'll also leave a feather behind when they land. We'll talk more about feathers in a bit. When playing on the same team as her true love Rakan, Xayah gets a second passive, Lover's Leap.
Wait for me!
If either Xayah or Rakan is recalling, they can sync up to return to base together. Xayah's Q is Double Daggers. Xayah throws 2 blades in a line, damaging all enemies they hit. Though, like her passive, they deal reduced damage for all targets beyond the first. The blades also leave a feather where they land. Xayah's Q and passive let her trade in lane while staying safely behind her own minions. After slicing up Thresh with a pair of blades, Clean Cuts kicks in to give her opponents an extra licking.
1,000 cuts is only the beginning.
Xayah's W is Deadly Plumage. Xayah conjures a storm of feather blades, increasing her attack speed and granting bonus damage to her next few basic attacks. If Xayah attacks an enemy champion while empowered by Deadly Plumage, she'll gain a short burst of movement speed as well. If Rakan is nearby when Xayah activates Deadly Plumage, he'll also gain the ability's effects. The best time to flaunt your Deadly Plumage is when an enemy overextends. When the Chain Warden whiffs a hook, Xayah uses her W's speed boost to make him really feel the sting of embarrassment.
Dodging seems to be a weak spot of yours.
Xayah's E is Blade Caller. She pulls in all nearby feathers, each dealing damage to any enemies they strike on the way. If a target is struck by at least 3 feathers, they'll be briefly rooted. One of the Rebel's bread and butter combos uses double daggers and a single well-aimed auto attack to set up Blade Caller's root. Here, Xayah waits until the loose cannon steps close and hits with the full Q auto E combo. Xayah's ultimate is Feather Storm. Xayah leaps into the air, becoming briefly untargetable. After a short delay, she hurls a storm of blades in a cone, each of which deals damage and leaves a feather upon landing. Xayah may continue to move while airborne. The cleanest Featherstorm plays abuse both its defensive and offensive power. Here, Xayah's taking a risk by playing rough with the rabble-rouser. She storms her way to safety just as Jin's W comes in, simultaneously setting up a field of feathers to ensure the fat man's demise.
As far as obstacles go, that was about a 3 out of 10.
Both Xayah and her opponents have to keep consistently aware of where her feathers are. When this clueless Kate tries to chill out in the middle of Xayah's feather bed, she ends up trading some of her health for nothing, actually. It's a bad trade. Xayah needs a little time to set up her feather trap, so you need to keep a cool head even in hot situations. Here, Xayah makes a fatal error when fleeing from Volibear. She uses Blade Caller with only 2 feathers out, missing the snare and ensuring her own demise.
Oh, crap.
With the extra wave clear potential granted by Clean Cuts, Double Daggers, and even Blade Caller, Xayah's one of the league's best and fastest pushing marksmen. And when the Rebel activates Deadly Plumage, both she and her lover turn into tower-taking monsters. I call that killing one stone with 2 birds.
I think we're supposed to laugh now?
At what?
Xayah is great at healing for herself as long as you have the mechanics. When J4 dives in, Xayah gives him a mouthful of feathers with a perfectly timed Feather Storm. The immediate Blade Color secures kill number 1. Turning her attention to Kog'Maw, a slight juke to the left ensures Blade Color number 2 hits and roots her Void Foe. A flyby from Rakan sets Xayah up for the kill on Kog, and they both live happily ever... well, they tried. Once per fight, Xayah gets to ignore enemy spells and set up an almost guaranteed root. Diving through Glacial Storm and Flash Frost, Featherstorm followed by Blade Caller forces Janna's and Jinx's flashes. Without any cooldowns left to defend themselves, she and Lee team up to prove once and for all who's the big bird on this street.
I'm bored.
Thanks for tuning in to the Xayah Champion Spotlight. Got anxiety to be in Spotlight, featuring Rakan, the Charmer.
Nothing important should be taken seriously. Let's go! Baby! Xayah!
Rakan's passive is Fey Feathers. His coat occasionally generates a shield, even in combat. Rakan can reduce Fey Feathers' cooldown by attacking and landing spells on enemy champions. When playing on the same team as his true love Xayah, Rakan gets a second passive, Lover's Leap. If either Xayah or Rakan is recalling, they can sync up to return to base together. Rakan's Q is Gleaming Quill, which slings an enchanted feather that damages the first enemy hit. If it connects with an enemy champion or epic monster, he primes the second part of the ability. After a few seconds, or when he touches an allied champion, Rakan heals all nearby allies. Gleaming Quill is Rakan's primary tool for winning quick trades in lane. Get a poke or two in with a quill and an auto attack, then touch base with your ally to spread the health. Rakan's W is Grand Entrance. He leaps forward, landing stylishly at his destination. After a brief, dramatic pause, he flourishes, knocking up and damaging all nearby opponents. When it's time to pick a fight, it's best to make a Grand Entrance. The knockup is wide enough that you can choose which side of your opponent to land on.
Can't stop me!
Rakan's E is Battle Dance. He leaps to an allied champion's side, giving them a shield to block damage. He can then cast Battle Dance a second time, even on the same target, before it goes on cooldown. If Xayah's the target of either charge, Rakan can leap to her position from a much greater distance.
Yeah.
Battle Dance is often the best way to get in position for Grand Entrance. Once you've baited out their panicked flash, use the second dance for a clean escape. Rakan's ultimate is the Quickness, which lasts a few seconds. While the Quickness is active, Rakan gains bonus movement speed and charms and damages all enemies he touches. He gains an additional burst of speed upon charming his first enemy champion. Enemies can only be afflicted once with the Quickness. Rakan's ult is a great tool for getting out of sticky situations. After he's gone in deep with Grand Entrance, the Quickness lets him make a graceful exit while leaving a trail of broken hearts in his wake. Rakan is incredible at keying off of his teammates to make a Grand Entrance. Battle Dance turns Lee Sin into a launch pad, which makes for an incredibly eloquent setup onto the opposing Jhin. How does it feel to be on the receiving end of a beautiful death? Rakan's got 3 separate mobility spells. He can enter, exit, and re-enter fights whenever he pleases. He can't stand toe-to-toe with his opponents easily, so Battle Dance keeps Rakan safe while Lucian goes in for the damage, and a Grand Entrance helps grab the kill. Once Rakan's abilities come off cooldown, he clears a wall and makes Jhin and Xerath get down with the Quickness. Ooh, ah, 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 ah.
This is you getting slapped!
Rakan's abilities let him get to allies fast, but that's not always the right play. He wanted to give Jhin a shield, but instead brought home a fresh brand ultimate, then dashed straight into a painfully long Morgana snare. Played a little more carefully, the Charmer and the Virtuoso might have both made it out alive.
I can't die looking this good!
Rakan is truly excellent at darting in and out of combat, even more so with Xayah in the game. He dives in on Kog'Maw with Grand Entrance, deals extra damage with Gleaming Quill, then delivers a shield and heal to whichever marksman needs it more. As the enemies chase his lover, he makes his second entrance onto the backline, crushing the Void Beast together with Bae. After Kog'Maw is felled by the most fabulous of supports, he follows Braum into the jungle for some supportal combat.
Where you going? Where you going?
Let's have a team fight. Rakan starts strong by charming every enemy in sight. But things start to fall apart when Xayah goes too deep into the river. Thankfully, Rakan is selfless, and chivalry is not dead, as he dives in front of a bullet for his better half.
What the hell were you thinking?
Back there?
Yes.
I wasn't. I never think. Ugh, thinking.
Thanks for tuning in to the Rakan Champion Spotlight. Fly on over to the Xayah Spotlight to learn more about this